Okay, so this is my my first attempt at getting it started. I've gassed it up and charged up the battery and everything. I noticed that these taps are leaking some fuel. That's something I'll need to address later. Leaking quite a bit of fuel too, so that's something I want to address as soon as I possibly can. Yeah, so I'm gonna just try to rig up my camera here, and we'll see what happens. Not working. Yeah. There we go. Mostly correct. Okay. Turn on the taps for the first time. See what happens. Okay. See the fuel lines filling up. That's my reserve fuel line. Probably not enough gas in there for that. Fuel lines aren't filling up all the way. I don't know if that's normal or if I don't have enough gas in there. Well, I shouldn't need much to start it, right? And my tipper doesn't seem to be doing anything on that one. This one does. Well, I think there's some fuel, yeah. There's some fuel. I can see that. I can see because it's leaking out of the gasket. So, yay. Lots of leaks. Okay. Attach the battery. Ignition on. Now let me choke. So, give it a bit of throttle maybe. And I think we're good to go. That sounded terrible! But it ran.
It ran.
And now it smells down here.
Yeah.
So I'll let that clear out.
You may need to take it outside.
Okay, so a bit of an after-action report from my successfully getting the bike running yesterday. Since then, since that first starting, I was able to start it twice after, and both times it started after like 1 or 2 kicks. So that was really promising, but then later I came back and I tried starting again, and I couldn't get it to go, and I couldn't figure out why it was doing that. Turns out I pulled out the spark plugs, and I noticed the spark plug for my left cylinder, it wasn't sparking anymore. So I tried the other plug in there, and it would spark fine. So my spark plug was dead, so I head out to my local hardware store to pick up some new ones. The poor kid working there, he had never heard of he had never heard of Triumph as a mark before, let alone a Bonneville. He had no idea what he was dealing with. But he was really helpful, and he helped me find some the appropriate spark plugs in the end. So I threw those in, and I fired it up, and after putting the new spark plugs in, again, 2 or 3 kicks, and away she went. And it actually ran somewhat smoother than it did before, but it was still pretty rough. A lot of smoke. I had it running. This time I let it run for a few more seconds, and I actually opened the throttle up a little bit, and great big cloud of blue smoke came out. It was it's pretty smelly, and I didn't want to run it too long lest I asphyxiate myself or something like that. So it still smells a little bit down here, but most of the smoke is gone. My roommate's in the process of moving, so there's a lot of junk in the basement, more so than usual. But yeah, I also noticed earlier after the first time starting it that while my right pipe was hot, my left pipe was really cold. So that's again an indication that spark plug wasn't firing properly. So now with the proper plugs in there, it's better anyway. It's still rough, still noisy, and I think I'm coming to grips with the reality that I'm never going to get satisfaction or peace on my own part unless I take off the whole top end, take a look at the valves and the pistons, put on new rings and that whole business. It's not a huge job, not compared to doing the bottom end, but it's more work. But I think I'm coming to realize I'm not going to be able to get this on the road this summer. This is a next summer sort of project. But yeah, I was able to resolve the mostly resolve the leaking taps just by kind of reefing on the bolt that connected it to the tank, giving it a couple good turns with the appropriate wrench. And now this one, I think this one is completely dry, and the other one's just leaking just a little bit now. So not perfect, but then the bike's coming apart anyway, so not an issue. I also noticed this carburetor here, it's still doing it. This carburetor here just started leaking like a sieve. It was fuel all over the crankcase here. But yeah, I tightened this thing down a whole bunch, and how much it turns out it's mostly you can sort of see that's pretty wet still from this gasket here. So there's a couple of reasons for that. I think I may have reused an old gasket when I put these back together initially. I didn't have the new gaskets yet. Now I do, so when I take it apart again, I'll put the new gaskets on. I also tightened these screws down a whole bunch, and that seemed to resolve most of it. It still leaks a little bit if I turn the taps on. Taps off right now. It still leaks, but it's a lot slower. I also noticed when I had it apart that this bowl wasn't a perfect fit to the carburetor body. So I'll probably have to do what Lundmad did and just kind of sand or file that down to the point so that they meet properly, because it kind of bulges away from the screw, and you can see there's a little bit of fuel. I don't know if that's focused properly. You can see it's wet there where the gasket is. So again, that's a minor detail. You'll also notice, like a proper Triumph, it's leaking oil all over the floor. It's substantially worse when it's running, but I'm pretty sure if I look, you probably won't be able to see anything. But if you look underneath, it seems that the oil is pooling on the bottom of the bolt on the bottom of the plate there. So that probably would just need to be tightened down, and that would resolve itself. But yeah, it runs, and that is very exciting and encouraging, even if it runs like very, very bad. I was going to come up with an analogy there, but words failed me. So all I ended up with was bad. It run bad. So yeah, I'm not entirely certain what I'm going to do next. The plan was originally to get it running and then tear it all apart, but I would like to run it a little bit longer. I only ran it for a few seconds, so you don't really get a feel for how it goes at that point, because I never had a chance to warm up. I never had a chance to stop running a little bit rich from the ticklers and the sort of not the choke, but the enrichment that it uses there. So yeah, it might, if I was able to let it run for 10-15 minutes, it might kind of help to reseat the valves and all that business. I might end up just running a bit more smoothly, but obviously I can't do that in the basement, and I'm not sure I want to take it outside if I'm just going to run it for 15 minutes and then tear it apart. So I think I'll probably just start dismantling it. Maybe run it 1 or 2 more times to see how that goes. But then, then it comes apart, and then the frame goes to get painted, or powder coated rather, and the tank goes to get painted, and the brakes get looked at, and lots of things to do. So stay tuned. I don't expect one in the near future. There's nothing flashy, probably nothing flashy to happen until I get the frame and or the tank back. In which case I'll post those up. But yeah, thanks for watching.